Hello, I'm Aidan Torgersen. I'm the director of this movie, and this is the audio commentary of BucketMan. BucketMan. Alright, so first off, I just want to say that there's going to be a lot of stuttering in this video because whenever I have multiple thoughts on my mind of what I want to say, then I sometimes, yeah, right here, I sometimes struggle on what exact words I want to choose for the sentence. And I also want to say that this opening right here is one of the worst openings of a movie in cinema history. Now, the original plan was that the ground wolf scene that happens later on in the movie. I'm assuming you've watched the movie if you're on the commentary, but the ground wolf scene that happens later in the movie was originally going to be the first scene of the movie, and then this scene would be after it. This is why that Aiden says that he doesn't feel good. It was supposed to be because he got shot by the energy beam and with the ground wolf scene, and I rearranged it because I wanted people to get familiar with who Aiden was before he got powers, and I wanted people to know what his life was like before he got powers. I wanted people to see him before that, instead of him instead of showing him later on with powers, and you never get to see what he was like before he had them. So I rearranged the clips, and I kind of regret it because it didn't turn out very good. Now here's Antonym. One of the errors I made with this movie, one of the many errors I made with the movie, was that Antonym later on reveals that he's the future version of BucketMan, right? Well, what doesn't make any sense is that why would Antonym blow up that building that his dad is inside? Because if Antonym is the same person as BucketMan, that's his dad also. So why would he kill his dad? Now, I realize this was a plot hole in the movie, so I've decided to explain it in BucketMan 2. Now, the thing with Antonym is that he didn't actually blow up the building. And that's revealed in BucketMan 2, that he never actually blew up the building. It was that somebody else blew it up, but Antonym took credit for it as a way to motivate Aiden to become a hero, so that Aiden could become BucketMan and perhaps, maybe even one day, stop the apocalypse that is destined to come. And Antonym set this all in motion by pretending to be a villain. Whether or not Antonym will admit it, he is BucketMan. He is the same person. He still has that wit. He has that sense of humor still. He has all that, but he just hides it. And he pretends to be a villain so that Aiden will have someone to hate, someone to have a reason to be a hero about. And over here, I'm going to say that this cemetery scene was shot. So the scene with me right here was shot in Forest Park, but it's made to look like I'm at the cemetery. I'm obviously not allowed to film, myself looking at a gravestone in a cemetery, so I was like, you know what? I'll just splice it together with film. I'll splice film from the cemetery with film of me looking at the gravestone, and I'll call it a day. Now, this scene in particular, I'm just looking at a tree right now. I'm not even looking at it. I'm not looking at anything. I'm just looking at a tree. And, oh yeah, I like this shot, because it shows the fist, and it shows, the pain of the character, yeah. Now this is a great motivator for Aiden. Now, originally, like I said, this was supposed to happen after the ground wolf scene. And it was supposed to be that he got powers, and then but the thing is, he didn't do anything with the powers when his dad died, and it made him feel guilty. Now, I changed the movie so that this scene happens before the ground wolf scene, which might have been a mistake. And one of the things that caused was I never filmed a scene that introduced ground wolf properly, and it's because that the actor Luis Diaz, he plays ground wolf, and he has a lot of stuff he has to do. He's a hard man to get a hold of. We were able to film this one scene in the park one day, and I had to make this narration scene right here. I had to make because I needed some way to bridge the funeral scene to Ground Wolf's introduction, but I didn't have any footage of Ground Wolf meeting Aiden before. Ground Wolf was going to have a really huge part in the script, but when with Lewis and his availability being in question all the time, I cut down his role so significantly he only appears this once. He has a much bigger role in BucketMan 2 and in the movies to come. Now, one of the downsides about Lewis not being available was that there were scenes that were written that were going to explain the logistics behind his powers and everything, but they were all cut because he wasn't available. So I had to cut all those and sacrifice it for the overall product of the movie. And the end result was this kind of confusing scene that makes almost no sense, that he just finds some random dude who gives him powers, which isn't actually the case. But it looks like it's the case because it's never explained as anything but that. This machine here is the thing that gives people powers. It's what Ground Wolf uses to give BucketMan powers, and it will be more detailedly explained in, like, I think maybe an Instagram post or something. I'm not sure when I'm going to explain how it was made or whatever, but it will be explained at some point. But yeah, Ground Wolf was going to have a bigger part. He was going to be a bigger part of the movie, and we were like excited to have him on board at all. I mean, I'm grateful to Lewis that he was able to come on board at all, though. And it's I actually had to have him overdub the scene because it was raining that day and the audio got messed up. It took him 3 weeks to give me the audio clips because, like I said, he's a very busy man. He's one of the nicest people I've ever met, though, and I gotta give that to him. He's a very nice dude. And now another narration scene to fill the gaps, because, like I said, shitty editing that was caused by me, and, yeah. So now we're going to lead into, we're leading into when he sees his powers. Now, this is him kind of mourning the death of his father right here, and he's like, oh, yeah, my dad's dead. Oh no. I found a guy in the forest. Yeah, you know, yeah. But then he's like starting to be like that, and then yeah, the electricity shows, and yeah, oh god, I have powers. That reaction is so. It should be a lot bigger than that. He should be I'd be jumping up and down screaming if I had superpowers, alright? But, you know. Now, this scene is similar to in the first Spider-Man movie when Peter Parker just starts sticking to random objects. But this is a lot less messy. Now, this scene in particular is very heavily inspired by that same movie that I mentioned, the first Spider-Man movie. As you can see, he does a similar thing to Peter Parker from that movie, where he draws these random sketches of characters to try to see which one best suits him. He gravitates toward BucketMan because BucketMan was a superhero that he created when he was younger. Similar to me, in fact. Like, Aidan's story is Aidan's personalities and his story, his character is very much based on my life. But he's very, he's different from me in a lot of ways, though. He's a little more naive. And I don't know, I felt it was easier to dumb down the character from myself than to make him the same level of intelligence as I am. With Antonym, I did a different approach, where I tried to make him seem smarter than I am. Now, this was very difficult, but I achieved it by using a lot of big words. Antonym right here explains how he blew up the building to divert the FBI or whatever, but this is actually not true. This is, like I said before, Antonym didn't blow up the building. He never even was at the building. He says he blew up the building, but he never did. This is him trying to get into character of the villain, pretty much. He didn't blow up the building, but he knows he has to act like he did. Antonym is not as much a villain as he is a plot device in the movie, really. He has a motivation, but his motivation isn't actually what it seems. His real motivation here, he says that he's going to use missiles to blow up Manhattan or use EMPs to fry the electronics or whatever, but he never intends to do any of that. Antonym is far more complex than that. His mission is that he is trying to get BucketMan to realize, to change the timeline so that the apocalypse doesn't happen. Now, here's one of my favorite scenes of the movie right here, is because this is all old footage from before I even knew I was shooting a BucketMan movie. I filmed that in 8th grade on the roof of my apartment, and I just had a bunch of random scenes that I filmed up there, and I put them together. It's because I wanted BucketMan to have a different costume first. I wanted him to have a less sophisticated costume than, or a more sophisticated costume than what he has, and make it look like that he has some sort of progression with the costume. I didn't have that red bucket anymore, but I had the old footage of me with it, so I decided to integrate that into the movie somehow, so that I could show evolution through the costume in the movie. Now, the music was also composed by me, too. I should mention that. The music is one of the best things about making the movie, I think. To see what music fits with the scene. I mean, it's one of the... When you find that tune that you're looking for a scene, it's one of the best feelings you can have. Now, here's a scene that makes no sense whatsoever. Somehow, Aidan triangulates the position of where Antonym's hiding based on 3 different bombings. Now, this makes no sense at all. It doesn't make sense that he's tracked Antonym by triangulating the position of 3 different bombings. This makes no sense at all. But it was written because I didn't know how else to get him from point A to point B. And point B being where Antonym is, and point A being at his house. I didn't know how he was gonna find Antonym. Oh, and here's some Easter eggs here. There's Finland, history and founder. People who go to my school will understand that. And before that, and under that is what is an ellipse. That's an earth science reference for those who don't know. Now, here we go. This is their first encounter. It's actually called the encounter scene. That's what it was labeled in editing. The encounter scene. Because it's their first time meeting. Now, as you can see, another progression with the costume is he has an orange bucket now. And he has the classic red shirt. He's getting closer and closer to having the classic outfit. Now, here's one of the things about this movie, or this scene in particular, is that it perfectly showcases the difference between Antonym and BucketMan. Antonym is fully aware of the situation, while BucketMan has no idea what he's waltzing into, and he believes that, oh, that guy right there, I could totally take him on, I could beat him, and it shows how naive he really is in comparison to Antonym. Another mistake I made with this movie is I made Antonym more of a likable character than BucketMan, which should not have been the case. But they are the same person, so I guess I could let that slide. But I feel like that I should have done more character development with BucketMan. Then maybe he wouldn't be considered such a joke of a character, even though that was kind of the goal, was to make a joke into a movie. I just wanted to, I really liked Antonym's character, though, and it was part of the reason that he has so much lines. He actually has more lines than BucketMan in this movie. And then, here we go, the reveal. The ultimate reveal. I am you from the future. That should be a cliche. In fact, I think it is a cliche. But it works very well here.
Now that introductions are done.
No. This isn't possible.
Alright, some bad acting here. But, like, here's his explanation that I'm you from the future, in my time, blah blah blah. Oh, by the way, I should mention that Ansley plays Antonym for this scene, because I can't be in two places at once. Ansley Shirley, my stepbrother, he plays Antonym in this scene. I'm actually in Georgia in this scene. This is a shed. It's part of the property that my mother lives on. I visit her every summer. And yeah. So it was really fun to film with him, but it was really hot in there. So this actually took 2 days of filming because it was so hot in there. It was just ridiculous, and we didn't have water or anything. It was just so humid out. And he had it the worst because he had to wear that mask and everything. One of the hardest things with Ansley is that he has long hair, and we had to conceal that somehow because I don't have long hair, so it has to be consistent. Another thing is that he's like white and I'm not, but that's a different issue altogether. And it's not as noticeable as the hair thing.
Any part in any of your twisted philosophy.
Now, Antonym here, he explains that he doesn't want to do any harm to anybody. He feels it's necessary. This is also a lie that Antonym has made. Antonym is never going to use missiles or anything. He says he is, but he won't, because that's against his belief. Remember, he is still BucketMan. No matter what he says, he is still BucketMan. And they are the same person. He only acts differently from BucketMan because he has to fulfill that role in the time stream. He feels that if he pretends to be this villain, then maybe he can convince Aidan to be a better hero than he was when he was BucketMan. Something that a lot of people don't realize about Antonym is that Antonym knew he was going to die by the end of the movie. He knew that because Aidan knew that. Remember, Aidan and Antonym are the same person. So if Aidan knows something in the past, Antonym already knows that thing. So Antonym knew he was going to die. He knows this is a suicide mission right here. He is very well aware of this, but he persists on doing it so that he can get Aidan to listen to him, so that he could try to get Aidan to be a better hero. He wants to see if Aidan can be a better hero than him. He wants to see if he can change the timeline just enough that the apocalypse that he foretells about never happens. Another thing I want to mention is the quality of the movie. This is something a lot of people ask me is why is it so bad? For one, it was filmed on a phone. It wasn't this bad of quality, though. What really killed the quality was when you're using Adobe programs, you have to render your video, or whatever you make, you have to render it using Adobe Media Encoder. And my mistake was that I encoded the movie under the wrong setting, making it so that the movie is more grainy and it looks a little off. And that was my mistake, and it was because I was very new at this whole thing with the movie thing, and yeah, that was all my mistake. I felt really stupid when I found out that I did it the wrong way, because I couldn't reverse it. I couldn't re-encode it because I deleted most of the clips that I used to put the scenes together. So if I wanted to try it again, I'd have to start from scratch. And I didn't want to start from scratch. So I was like, you know what, screw it. This is my movie, I'm gonna keep it like this. And here's my absolute favorite scene of the entire movie right here. This is the best scene of the movie, in my opinion. This shows so much. Like, right here, he is looking at the photo and he's like, that drawing? I'm finally becoming that drawing. That emotion he's feeling is the emotion I felt when I was holding that thing.
Chosen to save the world, to bring balance when it is needed the most.
Now here's some really bad effects. Now remember I said that was the best scene of the movie? Now here's one of the worst. This is the absolute worst scene of the movie. Is right here. This scene, I do not know why I thought it was a good idea. I do not remember what was in my head when I created this scene. It is so appalling to look at that anytime I rewatch this movie, I skip over this scene. It is so horrendously laughable. Look at how close the camera is to Antonim's face. And look at the fire. It's phasing through him. This is because I didn't have a green screen back then. The best I could use was my brother's green blanket, which didn't produce very good results. It doesn't even look like I'm there, for one. And for another, the fire should be burning them alive. They don't have fire-resistant abilities. They should be dying right now. And it's frustrating that I even thought this was a good idea to begin with. I know I'm ranting a bit right here, but this is one of the dumbest creative decisions I have ever made in the history of ever, right here. And their dialogue feels so unnatural. And it feels like that it was written by a 2-year-old right here. It's like, stop playing God. I am not playing God, I'm freeing the devil. Yeah, it's so bad. Horrendously bad. This is... So in look at how close that is to his freaking face. Look at that. That is so bad. I want to gouge my own eyes out now. And speaking of my eyes, look at my eyes. They're like phasing through. What? The wall is phasing through my eyes. The hell is this? Oh, and here's where it gets really funny, right here. Where it gets really funny. Yeah, right, yeah, right there. What was that? What kind of effect was that? That was so bad. So bad. And now we transition to the second act. Well, technically the second act already began with the restaurant scene, but now we're transitioning to the true second act. The first act is about BucketMan, the second act is more focused on Antonim, and the third act is focused on both characters. Now right here, we're transitioning from Aidan talking about how he was fighting Antonim to a scene where Antonim is actually acting pretty much like a dick. Now, Antonim isn't evil, but he will do whatever is necessary to make it look like he's evil. He doesn't like torturing this kid right here. He acts like that he likes it, but he does not. He knows that to make it look like that he's an evil person, he has to do some bad stuff. Now right here, he's about to torture a kid over codes that his father has. And it doesn't really make sense either that the kid knows the codes. And because why would his father tell him super secret government codes? It doesn't really make sense, but it's, I don't really mind this mistake as much with the movie, because it still is a pretty good scene right here. This scene is like, it describes Antonim's pain, it conveys it very well. And as you could tell, Antonim feels terrible that he has to do this to this kid. So that's why he's trying to relate to him. He's trying to tell him the future. he feels bad about what he's about to do to the kid. And so he tries to explain his reasoning for doing these things so that it makes it so that he doesn't feel as bad about what's happening. He says how he was there one day. He was there in the future when the apocalypse came. 6 billion people died, and it was horrible. He was there. He was there for it all. And that is a storyline that will be explored in the future of the franchise, is the apocalypse. It's going to be like the Infinity War / Endgame of my franchise, is going to be that. When this guy named Scythe tries to purify the human race. It's going to be great. It's going to be a shit show, actually. It's going to be a good movie, but it's not going to be good for the heroes. Heroes are plural, and I maybe shouldn't have said plural, because that is not an announcement I'm yet going to make at this point. But there will be a movie that will be coming out, and it won't be called BucketMan. It will be called something else, and it will involve a team of some sort. Antonym talks about how he had a team of people with special abilities later on in the movie, and that team will have their own movie coming out next year. This is what I was talking about, though. That Antonym, right? He is more of the main character than BucketMan is, and BucketMan is the namesake of the movie. Antonym has more personal scenes than BucketMan does. Like, you learn more of Antonym's character than you learn of BucketMan. Part of the reason for this is I found Antonym a lot more interesting, but also because I found BucketMan to be more boring. BucketMan comes from a normal life. He had a normal life, and then he became this powered person. I wasn't really interested in his normal life, though, which is why I didn't write many scenes explaining his regular, everyday routine that he went through. It's why you don't see him go to school or anything. I felt that wasn't as important as what I was trying to convey with Antonym. And it caused some issues with like, the narrative of the movie and who is the true hero of the movie. One of the things is that I've had people tell me that when they're watching the movie, they root for Antonym and not BucketMan. They feel that Antonym deserves to be the one to win in this scenario. But what they don't seem to understand is Antonym has already won by the end of the movie. He thinks that he changed the timeline just enough that the future will be different. He doesn't know this for a fact, however, but he thinks he has. One of the more unsettling sounds from the movie is that bone-breaking sound effect, as well as the knife sound effect when he stabs him, and also when he takes the knife out. Those are pretty unsettling sounds. I got the sounds from offline, because I didn't know how to make those sound effects for myself. If I did know, I would have done it myself, because, as you guys know, I'm a big fan of doing things myself. That's proven by the fact I made the entire soundtrack myself. I created all the music for the movie, and I created all these scenes, and that's fake blood right there that I used, and I wrote this, I directed it, I filmed it. Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of doing things myself, but the sound effects, I had trouble figuring out how to make them, so I just took them from offline. At least my movie is mostly original. Now here's the second dream sequence. Now this dream sequence foreshadows quite a bit. Like, you will die by your own hand, which is foreshadowing the fact that Antonym is going to die by his own hand. And it shows that transition there of BucketMan becoming Antonym is foreshadowing the future, which is that BucketMan will eventually become Antonym, which I've explained before in this commentary. Now he goes on to ask the question that's on everyone's mind, which is, what do these dreams mean? What are these dreams? Why are they there? Now, that question is never answered in this movie, other than Ground Wolf. It's pretty much clear that Ground Wolf was the one who induced these dreams, but it's not clear as to why he did it. Oh, there's my brother's second cameo in the movie. Anyway, it's not clear as to why Ground Wolf made him have these dreams, and it's not clear to how much control Ground Wolf has. Oh, there's Ansley getting caught trying to escape, and now Antonym's pretty mad. Those handcuffs, by the way, those are not real handcuffs. Those are fake, of course, because I couldn't get my hands on real ones. Those are from the dollar store, I believe. Speaking of cheap production, Antonym's costume is one of the cheapest things I've ever had to make. His costume consists of a sweatshirt, a blanket or a sheet for a bed, and a shirt, which is the mask. And his pants actually came from a store that I saw in Georgia. His pants are like sort of they're weird and they're tacky pants, but they look good on Antonym. They have like these metal parts to them that look good on Antonym, and so he has those. But Antonym has literally the cheapest, not the cheapest, but one of the cheapest costumes I've ever made, besides BucketMan's costume. Now, the most expensive costume I've ever made was in BucketMan 2. There's a character named Obscurum, and he's a shadow spirit from the Shadow Realm, and his costume is pretty much a black suit, but it cost me a lot of money. It cost me like $23, $25, and the makeup cost an additional $7. Oh, and here we go with the storage facility scene. I should mention that this is also green screen. This is one of the better green screen effects of the film. This part right here isn't that great, but in a bit you'll see that the scene starts to look more real, and you could actually believe that it's a real green screen that's there. But no, it's still the green blanket right here. People, when I premiered this movie, fun fact, I premiered the movie at Lewis's house, and a few people saw it. About 7 people were there to see the movie, and I premiered it before that it went online to see how people would react to it. And they had no idea that this part was green screened. They thought that I was actually at a warehouse, and they asked how I got permission to do it. And I'm like, I never did, that's green screen. And they're like, really? Oh. So this is like the only good green screen effect of the film, and it still looks like shit. But it was on the film was on a DVD when I premiered it, so it didn't look that great, so I guess it looked more real. As you can see, Antonym's crying here. He's kind of narrating right here. And one of the jokes one of my friends made when when I premiered it at Lewis's house was, imagine that a worker just comes by and just sees Antonym like in the warehouse, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing here? You're not authorized to be here." That's actually really funny. I mean, if that did happen, I wonder what Antonym would have done. Would he have killed the guy, or would he have just ran? What would Antonym have done? It's very interesting, but another inconsistency here is, why does the military store EMP missiles in a storage facility in Pennsylvania, where there is no I'm not sure if there's even a military facility in Pennsylvania. There probably is, that I don't know of, but why is it in a warehouse? Why in a warehouse? It should be in a military institution. Like, it should be somewhere safe, somewhere more safe than this. Now, here's Antonym clearly is acting over dramatic here, and the reason he's acting over dramatic, like I said, is because he doesn't actually believe these things. He says how There's only one person to stand in my way. My former self, the BucketMan. But he's acting overdramatic, and it's very obvious. He doesn't actually believe these things. He's saying this out loud so that, like, the audience pretty much understands what he's talking about. There's no real reason he's saying this out loud. This is pretty much like, this is him trying to convey that he's a villain. And even though that it's pretty much a lie. And here we go with Groundwolf explaining that he was responsible for the dreams, but he doesn't actually explain it. The thing with this is I couldn't get Lewis to do more lines, so I had to improvise, and I took a line from one of his YouTube videos. And it was an old YouTube video, so his voice sounded lighter, so I had to use a pitch correction to change his voice to make it sound deeper and more consistent with Groundwolf in this movie. Oh, and this scene right here, as you can see, the scene starts out with the music being Antonym's theme, and it tricks you into thinking Antonym's going to come through that door. But when BucketMan comes through the door, BucketMan's theme is very prominent there. And this scene leads into the final battle, and it's like, this scene right here is like what sets up the final battle right here. This is about the very tail end of Act 2 right here, and we're going to lead into Act 3. Now, I put that caption there because what he said was so hard to hear that I couldn't hear it in editing. So I put a caption there, what it is saying, what he says, because I just couldn't hear what he was saying during editing, so I just left the caption there so that people could read it.
What did he want from you?
Now, the thing with this is that, why isn't Aidan wearing the bucket? Now, that's a good question. The real reason behind this is because I couldn't bring the blue bucket to Georgia. All the scenes that were filmed in Georgia were filmed before everything else, except for the Groundwolf scene, and the TV scene. Everything in Georgia was filmed before a good chunk of everything else. Here's some armor that BucketMan has, but it's never actually in the final battle because, like I said, I couldn't bring that to Georgia. Now, here's a scene. This was filmed in Forest Park, right here, where I'm wearing the bucket. But this part with Antonym was filmed in Georgia. What I did is I combined, late in editing, I had a original scene where BucketMan was in Georgia, like BucketMan was in that final battle, and he had no bucket, but it didn't make any sense because he should have the bucket. So I filmed a scene in Forest Park to make it look like I'm in Georgia, in that same backyard, and I filmed it with the bucket on my head, so that I could have it look more like I could give an explanation to why he doesn't wear the bucket in the final battle, which he exclaims as being that he, oh my god, I can't even look at that. Oh my god, I want to die right now. Please, just stab me. Like, shoot me. Oh my god, that looks so bad. What is this? Why? Okay, so the green screen here is because that, I did film the scene in Georgia, but I didn't like how the scene was. I didn't like how Antonym explains the reasoning for his actions. I felt like it was too overdramatic, so I refilmed it, but I couldn't film it in Georgia again, because I wasn't in Georgia anymore, so I filmed it with a green screen. And it looks very bad. But the thing is, though, if you listen to Antonym's voice, he sounds more normal in this, and it's because that Antonym is being more honest in this scene. He's being more open in this scene. And there's BucketMan throwing the bucket away because he sees that it's not about hero and villain anymore. It's about two people fighting each other, even though that they're the same person. Antonym sounds more like he sounds more sincere talking to BucketMan here because he is being sincere. He's being, for the first time, he's actually being completely honest with BucketMan, explaining that this is it's an inevitability for this apocalypse to come, and that BucketMan needs to prepare for this, and he explains this thoroughly. And that's why I wanted to do this green screen scene, even though it's really bad. I wanted Antonym to seem like he was being honest, and it looks very good because it makes it look like that. It makes it very clear that Antonym is not over dramatic as the other scenes. Like in the other scenes, he's being over dramatic because he wants BucketMan to think he's a villain. But in this scene, he's being sincere and honest so that he could let BucketMan know what's going to happen in the future so that BucketMan could try to prevent the future. That's the thing with Antonym, is that he like pretends to be the villain, but now he's explaining about Scythe and how Scythe, he killed off his team, his world, it's all in ashes, and Antonym went back in the past so that he could help prevent this. But the whole thing with the EMP missiles, that is the part that's a lie. He says that so that he gives BucketMan a reason to become a hero, to fulfill the prophecy, pretty much. The prophecy was never actually mentioned in this movie, I should say, because that was a cut scene. But there is a prophecy of BucketMan becoming a hero that Groundwolf explains in a deleted scene that may or may not ever be shown. There's Scythe. It's actually me in a costume that I made, and I blurred it out so you can't tell it's me. But I want someone else to play Scythe. I have a guy that I think is going to be perfect for playing Scythe. I think that he's the right build for it, the right height. He's perfect. He has the voice for it, too. But getting him on board would it's like a dream. It may or may not happen. Well, that's not really like a dream. That's more like a possibility, I guess. Yeah, well, why'd I say like a dream? Where was I on my thought? Yeah, but it's like a possibility that could happen. Yeah, so it's something that may or may not happen, but I'm really hoping it does, because, I mean, I need as much help as I can get with this stuff. I mean, this is like, working on a movie by myself was not easy at all. It was very difficult. And one of the things that, like, people will dismiss BucketMan because obviously he looks like a retard. He has the bucket on his head, but people don't realize the lengths I went to make this film a thing. And they don't realize how much groundwork this movie sets up for other things that will come into the future. This movie that's part of the problem with this movie, is it sets up too much. And once those things happen in the future movies, people will realize that, oh, wait a second, he was onto something when he made this. Oh god, look at that acne. I mean, I guess it worked out for the best, though, because it makes Antonym look older than BucketMan, and BucketMan I have no acne on, like, when I'm filming that scene, but with Antonym I have the acne, and it makes Antonym look like he's older. And I guess that worked out for the best. Now here's BucketMan explaining exactly what's wrong with Antonym's plan. Antonym is very well aware of what's wrong with his plan, and it's because, like I said, it's not his real plan. I keep clarifying that because a lot of people don't realize it. It's because it's not really... I didn't really write it that well that you could tell that it's not his plan. But no, he never intended to do any of this stuff. Now here's the final battle. Once the mask is on, it's Ansley that's under there, so because I can't be in two places at once, obviously. But right here, this is like, it's like so amateur, because I mean, honestly, I don't really know how to fight very properly. And yeah, look at that, he's running away like a bitch. Yeah, okay, bye. Now, here's a fun fact, I guess, if you want to call it that. The parts where hold on, the part is about to come. Hold on. Right after this. Yeah, like the parts where I'm without the mask, were filmed 2 weeks before the parts where I'm BucketMan in that final battle. This is because that Antonym and BucketMan, there's one key difference they have, and it's hair. Antonym has shorter hair than BucketMan, and I needed to keep that consistency. So I filmed the scenes with Antonym walking around with me. I filmed those 2 weeks earlier than the ones where I'm BucketMan and Ansley is Antonym. Putting people don't seem to realize that though, but it took 2 weeks for me to be able to go back onto that field and be and be BucketMan, because I wanted the consistency with the hair. Right here is one of the only special effects shots in the movie, and it doesn't look that great. It looks okay, but the way it's executed is very badly. Here's Antonym again talking about, the usual, we have power that no one else has, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So, the thing with the fight scene, I'm not very good with planning fight scenes, but the way this was planned is that Antonym would find BucketMan at some point, and every time that he doesn't see BucketMan, he takes off his mask so that he can narrate. And then when he sees him again, he puts on the mask. I actually made a revised version of this final battle. It's actually in higher quality, and I posted it on YouTube. And it's like the clips are in different order too, and it's a lot better. I think I posted it on YouTube, and it's a lot better. Trust me, than this. It actually has an extra special effects shot too. And some extra added scenes that were not in the movie, that were also not in the deleted scenes either. And here's another Forest Park shot right here, and there's another shot that was shot. The Forest Park scenes were shot in October, so they were shot 2 months after when I was in Georgia. So the timeline of these shoots was Antonym's scenes with me as Antonym with a scar were shot first. Then 2 weeks later, I shot me as BucketMan and Ansley as Antonym, and we fight. And then about 2 months later, in October, I shot the Forest Park scenes. That's how the timeline of the battle went. Originally, there was no Forest Park scenes, and it was only later in editing that I was like, you know what, there needs to be Forest Park scenes. And that was my favorite line, by the way, of the whole movie. You will end as I began, a broken soul, tormented by the loss of loved ones, haunted by the mistakes left behind. And that's my favorite line of the entire movie because it summarizes Antonym and BucketMan and their relationship with one another very well. And here is another special effects shot that could have been done better. Now this is not terrible, but it's not good either. And as you can see, the special effects keeps moving off his hand. And that's not how it's supposed to be, obviously. But it is like that, and that's a problem. But yeah, that's that scene. As you can see, he pushes him off. And I'm not sure if you could tell, but Antonym does not fight back after this, because Antonym knows he's about to die. Antonym knew he was gonna die, because he was once... It's very complicated time travel stuff, but he was once BucketMan, and BucketMan knew Antonym was gonna... BucketMan, after this moment, knows Antonym died. So when BucketMan becomes Antonym, Antonym is BucketMan, so that means that Antonym would know that Antonym died. The other Antonym died as well. So that means by the time that he gets to that point in the timeline where he goes back into the past and dies, he would have already known that was going to be the case. It's very complicated time travel stuff. If anybody has any more further questions about it, I could perhaps answer it in a comment. It's very hard to verbally express the time travel stuff here, but I can maybe if anybody wants any questions answered about it, you can maybe write a comment and ask me about it on this video, and I could answer it.
Protect them.
Right here is the death scene of Antonym, and
Don't you worry.
Antonym is explaining how his last wishes are that to protect the people and all this stuff, and it's because that Antonym is now broken free of that fake persona he created for himself, where he pretended to be a villain. Now he's acting like his true self, and he's like, protect the people, protect these people. The reason BucketMan killed him is because that BucketMan wasn't really thinking before he acted. He was thinking about the danger that Antonym was going to cause to a bunch of people, and he was thinking about his own well-being as well, and that's why he killed Antonym. But this is a thing that he regrets doing, and as you could see, the way he throws that stick down, he really regrets doing what he did. He did not want to kill Antonym, he feels bad for killing Antonym, and it's one of the plot points of BucketMan 2, is that it deals with the aftermath of him killing somebody. This is his first time killing somebody, and the person he killed was himself. And what this means is that he is forever destined to die by his own hand, because one day he will be Antonym, and then he will be killed by a past version of himself. Very complicated time travel stuff, like I said before. This is the same cemetery shot as before. I wanted the movie like this, similarly to Spider-Man movies, where it ends and begins with a sort of, there's a beginning part with the cemetery and an end part with the cemetery, and this kind of shows closure to the previous scene with the cemetery. They actually, both scenes were shot in Forest Park, not in the cemetery. I mean, I did take a camera through a cemetery, but I didn't shoot the actual mourning scenes in the cemetery because that's not allowed. So I filmed that part in Forest Park, and I filmed both of the scenes where its dad dies and the scene where Antonym dies. I filmed both of them on the same day. And that was Photoshop right here, by the way, which I'm pretty sure most of you know. But it shows a lot about their characters, because Antonym is BucketMan's antithesis, his antonym, but he's not really his antonym. He only acts like he's his antithesis, only acts like he's his antonym. Alright, so right here before the credits, I wanted there to be a closure to the film, but I didn't know how to close the film properly. So I thought, you know what, instead of filming or writing a new scene entirely, what if I just do a recap of all the events that happened in the film and tie them together in a neat little bow? So in the end, all the themes, all the different things that were said throughout the movie, like you were chosen to save the world, I'm the BucketMan, you know, all that stuff was all combined together for the last scene of the movie. And I wanted the last shot to be him as BucketMan walking to the camera. And now here's the credits. Now during the credits were actually really hard to make. They were the last thing made for the movie, of course, because the credits have parts of the movie done, like, the parts of the movie are like inside of the credits, and so it was the last thing to do. And this is kind of a running joke here, is that I did almost everything in the movie. And yes, my brother was the one who held the camera in the final battle. I forgot to mention that earlier. It was written by me, it was, the soundtrack was by me, so it was composed by me, it was directed by me. Jalen helped me, my brother Jalen, he helped me with props. Peter, he's an old friend of mine who we used to talk about talk about our made-up superheroes all the time when we were younger in 6th grade. Oh, and Justice, he did some help. He's a friend of mine from school, and he did some help. He helped me with the Ground Wolf scene, and he was the one who held the camera in that. And I needed placeholders for the credits, because the credits aren't that long. There's not that much people that were involved in the movie. But I wanted the main theme to play fully, so I had a lot of just made-up credits that aren't even things. Here's the actors. Um, I'm not sure if that last name Smith is going to be kept for Aidan. It might be it might be changed for BucketMan 2 or BucketMan whatever, or the team up movie I mentioned. And as you can see, there's Ansley as the stunt double version of Antonym, and there's Ansley again, but with his actual face, as Ansley Johnson, just some character that we came up with. And there's Lewis, conveniently, as funny enough, he's the first, other than Jalen, he's the first other actor to appear in the movie, and he's the last person to be in the credits. And here's like a compilation of different parts of the movie that are done with transitions. Now, there's a funny part coming up that, right here, this is a reference to my earth science class. Now, that is binary for the words stand up. Oh yeah, that's my dad, and that's my mom. That was binary for the word stand up, which is a thing my earth science teacher would do. Every time someone was misbehaving, he'd tell them to stand up and remain standing. And they'd have to just stand there for a long time, for as long as he said that they had to stand there. And there's the title card. Now, we're just about done with this commentary, actually, but here is the last part of the movie, is the end credit scene. Most people do not know this thing exists, and it's because that a lot of people don't realize that I did an end credit scene, but for people that don't know, I'm a very big Marvel fan. I'm pretty sure most of you people probably know, because I had a lot of Marvel stuff on my channel, and I still have some Marvel stuff on my channel that was left over from when I used to do Marvel videos. I do my Marvel videos on a separate channel now, though. On this channel called Ultimate MCU Fan, which I can link in the description. Now I just do BucketMan stuff and these home movies, these skits I do on this channel. And there is Scythe, and he's, yeah, that's me, actually, in the costume, and it's blurred, so you can't tell it's me. And that's actually in the hallway of my apartment. Yeah, so that's foreshadowing the coming of the apocalypse, which will be in some future movie, I'm assuming. And this right here is a reference to the Marvel movies, and every Marvel movie, at the end of it, like if there's an Iron Man movie, it says, Iron Man will return. Or, oh yeah, this is just the creative license agreement or whatever, and every Marvel movie ends with, like, if it's an Iron Man movie, then it's Iron Man will return. If it's a Captain America movie, it says Captain America will return. And I wanted to kind of pay homage to the Marvel movies by doing that in this movie. Now, that's about all the time we have, because the movie's, like, over now. And, yeah, I'm talking longer than the movie actually has ran. So, I think that I'm grateful to everyone that helped out on the movie. I'm grateful to everyone that's going to help out on my future projects. I'm grateful to the people that have supported me in the long run. And I plan to make a lot more films. One of the things with making these films is I get to improve upon myself every time I make a new one. This movie was a beginner kind of thing. I didn't know what I was doing when I made it, but every time that I make a movie, I get better and better. So this movie showed me, this movie right here was not a terrible movie, but it wasn't a great movie either. But it wasn't terrible, it wasn't great, it was okay. And that was what it was important, but for the future movies that I'm making, I'm trying to make them better. And I wouldn't mind having some help. In fact, I would applaud it very well. I'm hoping that some people will want to support me on the future of this movie making journey that I'm going through. And that's about it. We're almost at an hour now, so I should stop talking. But thanks for sticking with me through this director commentary, and I hope to see you again when BucketMan 2 comes out. All right, thank you. All right, bye, guys.